everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Tangent TV. My name is Joseph Lanzalata, and I am lucky enough today to have with me my colleague Alison Treacy, the Student Startup and Innovation Manager of Tangent Trinity's Ideas Workspace. Thank you for coming on, Alison.
You're welcome, Joe. Thanks for having me. I feel like I'm on Oprah,
Amazing. Yeah, no, I mean, one day, maybe I'll get there. But for today, we're just going to be exploring a bit about LaunchBox and how that's been going and how that's going to end up in the digital world in the COVID-19 situation today. But maybe just to start us off, you could give us a little intro. Tell us a bit about yourself and kind of how you ended up as Tangent's Student Startup and Innovation Manager.
Sometimes I ask myself that very question late at night, Joe. I started working in higher education, probably it's getting close to about 10 years ago now, which means I'm showing my age live, which I never intended to do. I moved to Edinburgh to do my master's, and I ended up working in the University of Edinburgh over there. I was involved in strategic projects that were all to do with innovation in teaching and learning. So things like bringing employability more into the curriculum, projects like a festival of learning where it was all kind of new ways of learning and teaching. And also I was involved with things like their MBA program and what's now their Launch.ed program, which would be about startups.
Okay.
And I just loved it. I loved working with students. I loved the energy that brought, even though sometimes you're wrecked, it's brilliant. So when this job came up nearly 5 years ago now, I jumped at it. So this summer will be my 5th LaunchBox. It'll be the 8th one overall, and it'll of course be the first one we've run online.
Okay, absolutely. So that's a bit of a story, and I see how it all kind of connects. So then if we even walk back further, as you said, it was kind of, this is the 8th LaunchBox iteration. Maybe you could tell me a bit about kind of how and why LaunchBox came to be, the kind of like founding story of LaunchBox, if you will.
Through the mists of time. So LaunchBox came to be, like, really it was people like Vinny Cahill, it was people like John Whelan within Trinity who just wanted students to have this opportunity. They wanted them to have the opportunity to start their own ventures, to explore what that meant, to learn by doing. And they like found some alumni that we call the LaunchBox Angels now. They found some alumni like Stuart Coulson, like Brian Caulfield, a number of others who all agreed and who all donated very generously some funding so that the first LaunchBox in 2013 could happen. And as it turned out, 2013 saw both Artomatics and Food Cloud take part in LaunchBox. So, I mean, maybe students were like really, really ready for their first accelerator on campus. And from there, it just kind of grew and it became mainstream, I suppose, in Trinity to an extent. And it's great to see that it's still here 8 years later.
Absolutely, and I know it's like grown a lot. Like full disclosure, I was a LaunchBoxer in 2015, but that was just before you came in. So in that vein, obviously, I'd love to hear kind of like how you've seen the LaunchBox program evolve, because obviously it had its humble beginnings of just launching something for students to kind of give them the space to start ideas. But I know it's evolved and grown since then. So what have you seen?
I mean, I suppose it's evolved. Like every year there's something we learn. Sometimes multiple things we learn, and that we try and incorporate and change and improve and iterate each year. We try and take our own advice as much as possible. But I think the biggest evolution, I mean, it's probably more structured than the one that ran in 2013. Obviously, we now have a space, we now have a home in Tangent, which we wouldn't have had before. There are year-round activities as well as the LaunchBox program that support getting ideas through to LaunchBox, through Tangent, through our colleagues in education, through yourself, Joe. But I would probably say the program evolves because the students have evolved so much in that time. Like, since I started, I think there's more of an appetite. Students are taking more ownership of their futures, but also the futures of like their society, the planet. And they want to kind of make changes now because they see problems and they want to fix them. So I think LaunchBox has had to respond to that greater appetite and try and think of ways to support them in as much as possible. So that's probably the biggest evolution, I would say.
Absolutely, that's really interesting because it's kind of like it's like a user-driven growth in the sense that it's like the students that are part of it are the ones that are making the program evolve year on year. Is there anything in that you've kind of seen like trends in terms of how the students are, what type of ideas are coming through and how they've changed? I know you mentioned the environmental angle potentially.
Yeah, so very much so. And you'll see that with the 10 teams on LaunchBox this year. Like this year is no exception, but tech for good is a big trend we see. And I'm sure you see that yourself, Joe.
Absolutely.
So this year we have one team working on renewable energy. We have one team working on like a sustainability recycling type project. We have another about kind of consumer habits that lead to fewer single-use plastics. We have two med tech device companies that are aimed at wheelchair users. So it's all very, I would say, under the bracket of tech for good, which is great to see. I would say we probably see more sustainability related ideas now than we would have seen even 3 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, so there's definitely that change. Obviously, the students are more kind of like focused on doing more than just the kind of profitability of a business. There's that like triple bottom line sort of thought process.
So, and I think a lot of the students, and fair play to them, like they want to set up businesses that solve a real problem, but that also do it, like do society good, do the world good. Like it's not just a kind of a big exit.
Absolutely.
It's not for them.
Yeah, no, I personally love that because I think it opens the doors for like the entrepreneurship is for more than just your standard kind of I want to build a business profit entrepreneur. There's kind of room there for anybody who wants to develop something to come in and like have an idea launch. And so yeah, it's exciting times. And amid the excitement of all of the new ideas, obviously there has been the elephant in the room of COVID-19 and the kind of
everyone's favorite virus.
Exactly. Yeah. No. So coming through and changing up how everything is going to be run, and I guess that's kind of that's the question of the day. And I'm really curious, and I'm sure a lot of people are really curious to learn how is this year of LaunchBox going to be particularly different from years previous.
Well, as you may have guessed, it'll be online, or at least the majority of it will be online. So we start officially next Wednesday, and the date we have in for demo day is the 2nd of September. So based on current guidelines, we might feasibly be back in person later in August, but obviously we don't know and we can't plan. So for the moment, LaunchBox is happening online, at least for June, and probably also July. So yeah, it's been interesting. It's kind of teaching us to practice what we preach very much in terms of being agile and being innovative and having to kind of have plans that are capable of changing at last minute and things like that. So it's been an interesting experience. It's the first time I've run an accelerator online. I'm a little nervous. I think it'll be great. Like the teams are fab. The startup community in Dublin has been really supportive. People are giving their time to the students, probably even more so than in previous years, because everyone's acknowledging how much more difficult it is to start a business in the current climate.
Right.
So that's been great. But yes, it'll be interesting.
It'll be interesting. It's the evolution to like try and take this online and like yeah, something that's like typically so core. It's like okay, you're in the space, you're developing a startup, but like bringing it online. It definitely does take that innovation, that creativity. I'm curious kind of like in terms of the technology that you might be using, because I know in this world, everybody's talking about the new hot thing. Okay, we're going to use Zoom like we're using right now, or we're going to use like Microsoft Teams. We're going to use like a whiteboard online. Like there are loads of different things we can use. What are the kind of technologies that you might be using to kind of deliver LaunchBox in that digital setting?
Yeah, so I think like much like with an online or much like with an in-person workshop, you would tailor it very much depending on what you want people to get out of it. So for things like a speaker coming in or doing a fireside chat or a workshop around financial or legal, we'll be using Microsoft Teams because Trinity is a part of the Outlook, which is what you would call an ecosystem infrastructure. So you can hear that there's drilling happening.
It's all good. It's the working from home environment.
LaunchBox HQ has been infiltrated by a drill. But so we would use Teams for that. Then like the startups themselves are free to use other channels however they want. So if they have a one-to-one that they're setting up with a mentor, they can pick their own platform. That's totally fine. And then we have kind of like almost a guide of different things that might suit them, because we're really conscious for the first year they are not going, like whatever about them not being in the same space as the other startups and myself, they're actually not working in their teams together even, like they're not located. So trying to think of things like Basecamp or Kanban or Trello, like things like that, to encourage them to make working online productive, by kind of increasing everyone's number of like emails and calls and just kind of losing the will to carry on.
Absolutely. I know that's like a challenge even in like any organization like ourselves in Tangent. We're all working remotely and trying to figure that out. And we have kind of a somewhat of a structured kind of organization versus a startup where it's those early days. It's so important to be able to have those conversations. So, I mean, like, but from what I've seen, it seems like the teams are those that are going to rise to the opportunity and take advantage of the, the thing. So
Yeah,
we'll look
like they're
forward to
going
it.
to do better with it than I will, I'm sure. Like is the case. And I like we'll find about 2 weeks in that the students have all found this new platform that I haven't even heard of, and they're all secretly using it, and we'll adopt that. Like we'll just, take that over. But for now we're trying to structure things. And I think like one of the most important things from Accelerator, and you know this yourself from having been on LaunchBox, is that sense of kind of collaboration, co-working, the peer learning you get from working and being co-located with other startups. And so we've tried to think about ways we can inorganically kind of reproduce that for these teams who will be working online. So trying to build things into the program, like we do these lunch and learn sessions. So last year we called them Bring Your Own Lunchbox. So teams bring their lunch, and one team presents each week on either a problem that they're facing or a success that they've had or something that they've learned. And depending, it's very much up to them, but it has to be something that the teams can either learn something from or give feedback on. So it does have to be, can't just be you presenting your deck.
Right. Must be engaging in some way then, yeah.
Exactly. So we're looking at ways to do that, and maybe taking it off Teams, maybe using a different platform so that there's that vision. Like maybe we'll use Google Hangouts for that, because it'll feel different to the workshops we have with the likes of Shiva Flood or Brian Caulfield coming in,
Right. It almost gives you that sense of different rooms then, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like I know myself that I use Teams so much for work that I am more likely to use Zoom for like my book club or, things like that. So I do think there is different, and we're trying to be very conscious of that, and to, to make that work so that the teams don't lose out on that.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, this is what you talked about. There's a lot of like space for creativity, kind of on your end in the organization of all this. And I'd be curious, like, I mean, I love the bring your own launchbox thing. Or sorry, lunchbox. We have lunchbox, launchbox, launchpad, all of them. But like, is there any other ways that you've like kind of found that you've been able to be like get creative around like the bringing everything online, and doing something maybe different that wouldn't even happen in the physical space, or it's different in the digital world?
Yeah, for sure. Like we're doing, like all of the teams would do customer development as a big part of the beginning of their program. And as any startup knows, it's so important to speak to your customer and to find out like whether the thing you're building is actually what they want. And if not, should you be building it at all? And normally as part of this workshop, which we would do normally like day 1 or day 2 in LaunchBox, normally as part of it, we send all of the teams out. So they do kind of a workshop in the morning, they learn the theory, they do kind of design thinking, and they have their canvas and everything. And then we send them out to actually speak to people, usually around campus. So like queuing for the Book of Kells or queuing for a cafe, like people who are a captive audience are more likely to give you your responses and to talk to you for 5 minutes. But obviously with COVID, that component has been lost. So we've moved to a customer development day, which is happening, I think it's the first Monday of the program, so the 8th. And each team will have like a small focus group made up of strangers. So it's not their friends, it's not their family, it's not people who are going to like know what the answer that they want to hear. It's going to be people from the community, from Tangents Network, from Trinity alums, and they'll run a small focus group. So this year the workshop is going to be the theory and the usual practice, but it'll also be geared towards how can you get the most out of this focus group. And then almost a day later, they'll have to put that into practice and see what they get out of it. Something new that we wouldn't have been able to offer before, because we've never run like an event with 70 people converging to do workshops at once, but because they're online, we can. So
that's awesome. It's opportunity out of the chaos. Like,
yeah.
that's really cool. So no, yeah, and like I actually am just like kind of thinking of it as we're talking about it. Is that something that people could still potentially sign up for to be a potential customer for people?
I'm glad you asked, Joe. Yes, it is. Indeed. I think there have been posts about it from the Tangent Twitter, Facebook, the LaunchBox Twitter and Facebook. It's on LinkedIn. It's pretty much everywhere. So
amazing.
They can.
Amazing. Well, hopefully some of the people watching now are be able to click through. I know the Facebook link is in the description here, so you guys can find a post there. But otherwise, if you came to us from Twitter, I'm sure you can find it. But yeah, we'll hope to get some more people in for the Customer Development Day. Then you guys can talk to some of the startups that are there. Now, I know in the kind of lead up to LaunchBox, there are a number of things that kind of happen to set things up to get it started. You mentioned Shifra and kind of that process. What has been the kind of feedback from the participants thus far, like the students that are on the program for the summer? How have they been feeling kind of going into it from what you've seen?
I mean, I think they're ready now. I think they're ready for it to begin. So we started a week later because the Trinity exam period moved a week later. So we were just conscious we didn't want students to feel that they had to choose between LaunchBox and submitting their assignments for their degree. So I think before, like in March when everything closed, I think there was a lot of nervousness. I think people were worried that they wouldn't get their place or LaunchBox would be deferred and they'd be studying and they wouldn't be able to go. So our job was very much like, everything's going to be fine. Your place is here, your funding is here, we're making it work, your focus should be on the end of your exams. And like, that's kind of the tone we took. And we kept them updated, like I email the startups every week, and they had kind of opportunity to book in a call with me, all of that kind of thing. So we just kept communication open, but now I think they're like ready and raring to go. So the opportunities that they've had before the real program has started, which is next week, they'll have the half-day workshop with Shifra Flood tomorrow, which is all about founders agreements. So that's one of the things we rescheduled from March to avoid exams. So I think that's always really good. It's always really interesting. They've had, what else have they had? They had Techstars one-to-ones last week, actually with LaunchBox alum, Johnny Dean, who's over with Barclays. He runs the Techstars Barclays Accelerator. Okay. And they were getting loads of feedback, and then I get the feedback from Johnny, so it's nice to see how our cohort compares, and they compare very favorably. So that was lovely to hear. And we've also been working with the teams to find them mentors. So this year, that's actually another thing that's changed. Normally, the mentors would be found organically during the program, and we would put the onus more on the teams to go out and find them. But this year, we want the teams more supported from the beginning. So we asked teams to either send us some suggestions of people that they researched on LinkedIn, or to come back to us with, these are the skill sets we're looking for. And we've been able to go out, match most of the teams. I think there's 2 teams still waiting. So they'll have like a fortnightly call each week with a mentor in their chosen discipline or background. Okay. So that's been really nice.
That's awesome. No, like I know, like personally, and even like just the value of them having those kind of mentors on board to help them through, especially now when they're kind of at home, having people to check in and bounce their ideas off of. I'm sure that's really going to help as they go through the process.
Like, yeah, I think it's nice. Even if the calls end up being more updates initially, or, I think it's just nice to have one person who's solely responsible or solely looking out for your startup, whereas most of the people who come in to speak will speak to all of the teams. It's kind of a little bit more bespoke.
Absolutely. Well, that's amazing. So, like, I don't have any more real questions here other than just, like, to say, like, I mean, we've obviously already touched on the fact if anybody does want to kind of get involved with the Customer Development Day and be part of with the startups, they can check out the Facebook page and get the link. I see Colin in the chat there said he already signed up, and some people are saying they love the regular emails, so don't worry, there's another one going out this week. It'll have this in it as well.
It'll be this afternoon, actually. I was so nervous about my time. Appearance.
Amazing.
Like, wait until after.
Very good. Well, they're looking forward to it, so that's great. And Colin has a question here, if that's okay, Alison. He's just wondering, will the public get to see any of the pitches by the team once they are ready? It would be interesting to see them. So I guess that's demo day.
Yeah, demo day will be public, whether it's public in person or public online. Absolutely, people will be able to see. And what we'll be doing as well is the teams, a lot of them have like a 1 minute or 2 minute video pitch. So we'll be featuring them on the different channels once the program starts, just to give everyone a taste of what they're all working on. Though I'm sure by demo day they'll have changed significantly.
It's always an evolving process, but yeah,
as it should be.
Exactly. No, it's supposed to be, but yeah, so that's awesome. So yeah, guys, if you want to stay up to date on all the things LaunchBox, you can go to the LaunchBox Facebook page or any of the video content. If you want more of that, subscribe to Tangent TV. Shameless plug. But otherwise, guys, I think we might leave it at that. Alison, thank you so much for coming on and sharing the information about LaunchBox. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much, Joe. It was great. I could talk about this all day.
Amazing. Well, I'll let you get back to the emails and such because they're anxiously awaited. But we'll end it there for now, guys. Thank you for tuning in for Tangent TV, and we hope to see you in the next episode. Bye, everybody.